Good evening, everyone. It's 6:04, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Jeff Boyles. I'm the fire chief, and thank you for coming to our second community presentation here at the Oasis. We had the first one over in a classroom style across the way back in November, and it was pretty full. So we decided to do a second one, and the premise of what we're attempting to do here is do some community outreach, get some feedback for some potential fire code adoptions that we're going to be asking the council to take a look at. Tonight you'll see a few different options that we'll show you that we're looking at proposing to the city council, but obviously without, we don't want to go forward without any of your input. So without further ado, this is Kevin Bass. He's our city fire department's fire marshal. He was brought to us by the Orange County Fire Authority. We hired him back in January. And for those of you that don't know, our city did away with the fire marshal position in 2015. So we went a good solid 3 or 4 years without a fire marshal. So some of these issues kind of festered in the background without the oversight because we were trying to figure out organizationally how we can get through without a subject matter expert, and we realized that we need one back. So we found Kevin. He is a subject matter expert, or at least the resident expert that we have in the issues related to fire code and building codes and fire prevention and things of that nature. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin, and when he's done with his presentation, we'll be around for questions and answers.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate everybody here. Today's focus is to get your input on a couple ideas, actually 3 ideas we have for vegetation management. As you can see, that we have the beginnings of a wildland management program. Currently, we have just the vegetation management component, which is keeping the brush clear. We have city properties that have to be maintained. We have large HOA properties, and then we have individual homeowners. A lot of homeowners that are on Buck Gully and Morning Canyon. And then we're going to be launching in 2020 what is the other half, which is public education. Ready, Set, Go will give homeowners an opportunity to do work on their homes and on their property to help survivability in the event of a wildfire. So our current status is that our fuel mods are working well and the city-owned properties are working well, but there's been a large growth of vegetation in areas managed by single-family homeowners. So everybody's in conformance with the existing standards. Nobody's getting violation notice because you're in conformance. The problem is the standard doesn't meet the minimum set by the state of California. So in order to reduce the vegetation load, what we're doing is we're taking an amendment to the city council, and in order to bring the best amendment package forward, we needed your input on what's going to work best. So in order to reduce vegetation in our hazardous reduction zones, we're looking at the following goals of our new program. We want to create a standard that's understandable and objective. One of the problems we see with other standards is there's a level of subjectivity. We want to make it very easy for you and your landscapers to know what it is. Next, we want to make sure our standard has exhibits and drawings that are easy to read. Sometimes they get a little busy and they're hard to understand. So that's one of the things we want to do. We want to make it really clear in a visual medium as well. And then last, we want to demonstrate that the program is reducing the fuel load so that we are reducing the risk to your neighborhoods. So we're going to go into the options, and the options are in an order that's actually designed. This standard here is what we call fuel modification. This is the gold level standard. This is the standard you see up in the Newport coast. When a residential tract comes in, they come in with a very comprehensive landscape package. It is very, very good. It's been demonstrated for years that these fuel mod areas lay the fire down. Firefighters have the opportunity to work in your backyards, and it's been exhibited in several fires in Orange County. But it does require a lot of vegetation removal. So it is a good standard, but it does require a tremendous amount of work for existing residences. So the pros is the amount of vegetation that would be removed. It provides space for firefighters to do their work, and it is a proven program, but it's a significant amount of vegetation that the individual homeowners would have to remove. It's also difficult to implement on really steep slopes, and a lot of Buck Gully and Morning Canyon are steep, I mean, really precipitous. Option 2 is the minimum standard, what I call the bronze level. This is the minimum from the state of California, and it's what we call defensible space. It's a traditional design. It breaks up the fuel mod, but what it really does is it's looking to create a 30-foot buffer zone around the house, and then gradual thinning. More thinning near the house, less thinning. It gets thicker and thicker as you get to that 100-foot mark or to your property line. So as you can see from the diagram, it's very lean on the first 30, and then you have more and more vegetation on the remaining 70 feet. It gives the firefighters a chance to do their work, and it is a proven design. That's why CAL FIRE and the state uses it. The problem is that it would require you to remove a significant amount of vegetation near your home. And this is one of those standards that's more subjective. What is thinning as you go out of that 30-foot zone? It gets a little more subjective the further you go. So this is what we call the bronze level. And this is what I call the silver, and this is the one I like personally. This is a modified defensible space. And what research has been done by Orange County Fire Authority is the types of fires that we have in Southern California is different than the ones in Northern California. Northern California experiences timber fires, fires that are in the trees, in the canopies. Southern California deals with brush fires. It's the stuff under the trees. The fires move fast, particularly with the winds. We have had several fires that have shown that the trees actually hardly get hit, but it's all the brush that's burning, and it generates the embers, it generates all that energy that's hitting the houses or generating the embers that are hitting the houses. So this standard is to create what I call a tree-friendly environment. You have to remove the brush and shrubs under the tree canopy, but it allows you to keep more trees. So in this case, it reduces vegetation. You're going to be removing stuff on the ground. It does allow the trees to remain as long as you can keep at least 5 feet from the house or 10 feet from the chimney. And it is a very clear and concise method. Keep the trees, take the stuff out from under the trees. If it's outside of the tree line, you can have brush. But you have clumps of brushes. You have to have separation after you get to a certain diameter. It will require some significant removal of the low stuff, but this methodology allows you to keep what I have heard people is the aesthetic, which is the trees. So what we're looking for today is your comments on those three options, and then using those comments, we shape the proposal we are going to take forward to the council. And with the modified fire code and the city guideline, we present a package for the council to adopt, and then we send that up to the state fire marshal showing that we're in compliance, and then the Building Standards Commission to show that we've met our requirements for justifications to the modification of the code. So in addition to vegetation management, I'll touch on this really lightly, we're also going to do what's called Ready, Set, Go. We're going to relaunch this program. It's a statewide, actually nationwide program that educates homeowners on three basic elements. Ready, how do you prepare your property for a wildfire? How can you make it tough? Two is set. How do you get set by prepping for what you need to gather up in order to evacuate? And then go. Learning the signs of when to evacuate before you get that evacuation order. We don't want you caught at the last minute with the traffic jams and all the rest. We would prefer that you put your set program in and then leave before the fire starts, or when you have that first whiff of smoke. Don't wait for it to run up to you. Go ahead and get out. So one of the reasons we're really going forward with this program is that this is a draft map that's coming from the state of California, and it's really increasing the number of areas that are considered a high fire zone. As you can see, a good chunk of the city, particularly from Newport Coast area up to the Buck Gully area, and then even a portion of Back Bay by the Bluffs, they're all in red. And that is the high fire, very high fire severity zones that we have to defend against. So this is the reason why we're talking to everybody. This is the reason why individual letters were sent to homes that would be right up in the vegetation area that are individual homes. We've worked with HOAs already, and the field mod zones are in pretty good shape, but we have new areas that we're talking about. And that is pretty much the program. So what I have done is I've arranged a microphone up front. If you'd like to come up and give me your comments, we have somebody taking notes. And if you could give us a pause so that she can keep up, that would be wonderful. But what we're looking for is any questions that you have on the three options, which ones work for you, which ones don't, merits of the program, demerits of the program. I want to hear the positive as well as the negative. And who wants to be the lucky #1 volunteer? All right, well, thank you very much, everyone.